Okay, it's recording. So welcome to the, where are you? Welcome to the 5 and almost a half year review of the van.
Do you want to step out of the way, just let the van be seen?
Kirsten's in the shot. So,
Hello. Hi. This is my castle.
it's too heavy to hold. It's not focusing on me, it's too
So
heavy.
that you can stand.
No, I'm
upright.
recording. No, I'm recording it now. I'm recording this. It's okay. So, welcome to the 5 and a half year review of the van. It's currently the end of May 2021, and we're just coming out of lockdown in Ireland. So I did intend to do the review of the van when it was actually 5 years old, which was on January 2021, but because of lockdown and so on, we're only getting around to it now. The video is going to be in 2 parts. So what I'm going to do is do, again, a quick summary for people who like quick summaries.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, and the second part of the video, which will be a lot longer and a lot more detail and so on and so forth, covering off more or less every aspect. The last time I did one before when the van was 4 years old, and it's only when I hop into the van that I forget things. That's why, because you weren't with me. Because I have a tendency to think about things in a certain way. So I think the thing is, it's good to have Vanessa here, because what she's going to do is she's going to remind me of the things that I'm going to forget. Now, for the fanboys out there who love the California,
It's an experience we've had.
well, no, the thing is, we love the van as well, right? So we're not going to come across as sort of hating on the van. That's not our intention here. Although we do complain about the van a lot. But again, it is a considerable investment. It has cost us a small fortune. We were paying for it. We paid for it out of a lump sum out of our savings. And then we had to pay a huge amount every month for the last 5 years. So when things do go wrong, simple basic things, it does kind of irritate us. But saying that, again, for the fanboys out there, we do love the van.
We're not knocking it.
No, we're not
We're just
knocking
being
it.
realistic on
Something
our
brighten it.
experience.
Guys,
Yeah.
I think we've had the van for 1,825 days.
Cool.
I
Right.
don't know if that's right, but I just did some quick maths.
Okay, well, that's not really helping with my short, snappy introduction. So, but again, I think the thing is that when we do kind of criticise the van, I think people who do love their Californias tend to they probably get a little bit bent out of shape for whatever reason. But again, we do love having it, and the point we're making is that the van could be. It could be a Transit, or it could be
anything.
a Mercedes or something like this. Well, we love having a camper van. That's the main thing, that we do love having a camper van, and we love having the California. But there are a lot of issues with it. So the short, snappy thing about the van is, generally speaking, overall, we enjoy having the van, and it is. There's nothing hugely catastrophic has gone wrong with the van so far. In that, things like the clutch. There's been a minor issues with the engine, but generally speaking, all the mechanics seem to be working fine, and things like the windows and the structure, there's no rust, there's no kind of things like that as well. So generally speaking, it is a good investment. We do like having a van. It does take a bit of getting used to, but there is a piece of, on a kind of short-term basis, there are issues that pop up from time to time, and we're going to take you through those today. So do you have anything to add then, Vanessa, to the short, snappy bit that I'm kind of talking about now?
No, because you've already made it long enough.
Right. So part 2, we'll be here for a while. So what I'd say is pause the video. Sorry, there's loads of flying
Put the
out.
kettle on.
Pause the video here now. Go and get yourself a cup of tea. And I'd say put a full pot of tea on and a whole cake. Don't go for a slice and a cup. Get everything. Right. So is there anything in particular, Vanessa? Well, that's probably a bad idea to put you, because you'll do it in some mad random order, and I'll be immediately say, no. We'll have to do it in some kind of logical format.
Yeah.
What was as a woman, because I think from a woman's perspective, what's your view of having a California?
Of having the van, or
Too many flies and stuff. I'm just closing it for a minute.
Right, go on.
of having the van, or the experience of camping.
Whatever.
The van.
Whatever.
So,
say if another woman come up to you and was talking about, should I get one? What would you say from a woman's perspective?
Like, it is great, and it's great for day trips and stuff like that, but there's a lot of design flaws in it for practicalities of when you're trying to cook inside the van.
Because women probably have a tendency to. Probably the default is that women do most of the cooking and stuff like that. So it's a bit like, I know that sounds sexist, but it's a bit like being at home. You tend to do those jobs. Well, I
predominantly do the cooking.
Yeah. So I do most of the kind of.
You do all the driving and the bits and bobs, where I do all the cooking and all. Yeah.
So it's that kind of traditional split of roles between us. But I think you like kind of.
Yeah, I don't mind it, because otherwise I'd end up with something with loads of cheese on it.
Well, that's true. So what else? So what would you say for women? So things like, say, hygiene and, personal issues for women that
like
men...
trying to use the bathroom and stuff like that can be awkward. Like, we have the porta potty, obviously, so that's made a huge change using that.
But things like
trying to have a little wash or something, because we do predominantly wild camping, that can be awkward. Because obviously Christian's at that age now where he can't be just sitting watching his mummy changing her clothes and stuff like that. So he has to go up to the top, or so it's tight for space, and it can be a little bit awkward.
Okay, so there is that, because it is a small space, and then with kids and stuff like that as well. But then anything else then, just generally speaking, from a kind of woman's unique woman's perspective?
Nothing that I can think of at the moment, no.
Okay, well look, sure, the thing is, if it pops up into your mind, then by all means, feel free.
I'll add it into the extended.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably make sense in things as we're kind of going through using the cooker and the fridge and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so moving on to the detail of the van. There was an engine issue in that there was something, the ECGR or whatever it was, or the EGR, I can never quite remember what it was. But it was the engine management system, basically. There was an issue with it. They had it for 6 weeks, trying to figure it out. They couldn't. The engine fault light kept coming on. The van was still under warranty. Eventually they figured out that there was a junction box in the van that was cracked, and it was allowing moisture in, and what that was doing was triggering the engine. Then last year there was no engine warning light come on, but when she was in for her service, they discovered that there was an air leak there was a leak in the ECR or whatever it was, EGR system, and they had to replace a washer or something like that. It was something very basic. I think the washer cost €3, but they charged us about €100 for labour to do it, because it took about an hour, and they fixed that. Other than that, the engine has been fine. It's the 204 horsepower version, and it's fine. So I think the thing is, someone might say, how is it economical? It is economical in that it's a big, heavy vehicle, but generally speaking, I don't have any problems with it. We knew we were getting into it. It's plenty of power, plenty of pulling power, and that's that. So that's kind of the engine.
Yeah.
That is the engine, and actually, if you're wondering, it looks very clean and tidy. That's because when I'm cleaning the van, I do actually clean the engine.
You dust it down, do you?
I do, yeah. I kind of clean it and check it and stuff like that as well, to make sure, because it does sit for quite a while. What we did have is, one time we had, let me just say now, what we had was the carpet in here is all eaten up, because when we were away on a trip in Germany, we had some mice invading the van. And what they were doing was tearing this up here, this carpet. They tore it all up, and they made themselves a little nest in this area. And since that day, I'm paranoid about it happening ever since. Hence I've got a mouse trap in there, but I did used to load it. And yeah, I think the thing is, if we go somewhere where there's mice, I will load it and have it set to make sure, and then obviously if it goes off, that'll be a message to the rest of them. But other than that, I think there has been no particular issues. It's all very neat and tidy. Now, moving on. So the LED headlights, I would highly recommend them. I think you'd be nuts not to get them. The light that comes off them is fantastic. I think they're a bit more expensive, but I think in the California they come as standard now. This is the thing. So that's the only problem we had at the start with them, was that we were blinding people at the start, and I think VW have either fixed that, or the intensity of the lights has dropped such that we're not glaring people out of it anymore. Fog lights, no problem. The parking sensors, fine. The distance sensor, or the automatic cruise control sensor, seldomly, very, very seldomly, it does disengage. It has switched itself off, I think, from once or twice. We've started the van and it has said there's some issue with it, and that kind of freaks me out ever so slightly. But what happens is that once we park up somewhere and I start up the engine, it usually is fine again. That's that. Wheels, No issues with the wheels. We're on our second set of front tyres, and that was after 40,000 kilometers. So the front tyres had been replaced, but the rear tyres are still on their first set. And when I went to get them replaced, I specifically ordered the exact same pair as are on the back, because again, just kind of, I like that whole you know, the tyres looking the same. We have the warning system. We have the warning system here, the kind of overtaking system. It's in here. No issues. From time to time when the van's being serviced, it comes back. Obviously they unplug the battery. You have to reset it in that you have to turn it on. But generally speaking, there's no issues there. Internally, no issues. The dashboard seems to be working out fine. I didn't order the reversing camera, which was a mistake. And I have a little small camera fitted, which I think is a good addition, because it's a big vehicle to be reversing, and relying on the sensors is just a little bit risky. No, oh, actually we did have an issue. So we had to we brought it back because it was developing a rattle, and we brought it back to VW to say what was the story, that there was some really irritating rattle developing, and what they said was that there was something within the airbag, and they replaced the airbag for free. So that was good, and there's a video about that. And there's probably a video about most of these issues, really, to be honest, right? And we have the Dyna Audio sound system, which is very good, but there's no issues with that. It's working fine, and it has worked since we got it. The only thing I'd say about it is that on this model, the T6, is that it cuts out at after half an hour, and the 6.1 is wired into the leisure batteries, which would be much better, because what's the point in having this system if you can't use it? So that's that. What else? Anything up there, V? The
window blinds.
Well, oh yeah. Well, I'll do this piece, right? So this the system for controlling everything inside. No issues so far.
No.
Right. So after 5 years, and that can go wrong, but generally speaking, that system has worked fine. This blind here has never caused problems, but that blind on Vanessa's side caused us issues in that it frayed, and it was always kind of it was always frayed, and it would never roll back in. It wouldn't roll back in properly, right? So that was an issue with that, and Vanessa went over and got VW replace that, and it seems to be fine, but it's still a little bit awkward to put back in. Yeah, but it's much better. It's much better, but it was always very awkward. So I've done a couple of videos on the fuses, right? So the fuses are in, the main fuses are in that, behind that part there, right? So this part, where's my hand? This part here, and I've done a video on it. That's where the fuses are. So the little kind of cup holder that's in here, there's a little cup holder in here. You basically pull that out, and then you have access to the fuses, and it's quite the palaver, right? So it's not a great design. Again, just to kind of reiterate, that's what the fuses are. The fuses are in here. So this, so you can see the cup holder. So this basically pulls out, and the fuses are in here, right? So quite awkward. And then under here, the rest of the fuses are in here. They're basically in this space under here. And those fuses control the cabin. Those fuses control, they're basically to do with the engine. But those, these guys control. Now, to get access to them, I was pushing this seat back. That's what I was doing, pushing that seat back. But the best thing to do is actually rotate the seat and then push it back, and then you have excellent access to the fuses, right? So that's something I learned the hard way. Now, we were away on a trip recently to Mayo, and they had left, if you watch that video, part of the video is that they were cleaning. We got VW to clean the seats, and it's another separate story, but VW cleaned these seats for us. And when they were cleaning under here, they basically left a hose from the cleaning system underneath the thing, and it was jammed in with the fuses. So it could have done some damage. Thankfully it didn't, but it could have if I wasn't careful, because when I was trying to rotate the seat, I was having terrible trouble with it.
The fabric is probably more for just a regular vehicle, I would imagine. That's not going to see, like, obviously you're cooking in here, so we have to keep this chair covered constantly. Because if you get splashes or even spills, water spills or anything like that, it's going to immediately go all over this chair. Now, I know you can push the chair back a little bit further, but then you're taking away from space out of the boot, so
So you, what did you do? You went over.
So I went over to VW and just kind of explained. I remember there's a video I went over with a big list, just explaining to them all the kind of issues that we've had and with the van, and that are kind of design flaws as well, not necessarily just that we've had the issue with them, that we've tried and tested the van out and they've caused problems. So one of the main problems was the fabric of the chairs, that it just stains, and no matter how much you clean it, you can't get, like, not only can you not get stains out of it, but if you clean, you can't just clean the area, you have to clean the entire chair, otherwise you get left with watermarks, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I went over and they cleaned them for us anyway, and scotch guarded them as well. So
hence they left the hose cover.
They left the hose under but that again, that's another day's story altogether. Generally what we asked them to do, yeah.
Generally speaking, if you were going to get the cover, I know of me, if I was going to go for an interior again, if I was ordering a new van, I would definitely get a darker.
Yeah, you probably
a darker material.
You wouldn't get this material, like this fabric. It's just not. It's not practical. It's not practical for the fact that it's a camper van.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's probably more suited to just a regular car. Definitely not a camper van where it's going to see a lot of people getting in and out, and probably wet coats and dirty jackets and God knows what else.
Well, it looks nice, and the interior is a lovely kind of light grey, right? Which is very nice. Now, I've covered the floor with carpet, but it's a very nice light grey. But what I was expecting, like most cars, was that if something got spilled, you could just rub it out. Now, you might leave a little bit of a stain, but it seems to be, you somehow seem to leave a huge stain. But not only that, when the door is open and if any kind of rain comes in, it watermarks. Now,
stains, yeah.
VW have, they cleaned the seats and then scotch guarded them, so they're a bit more resistant. And Christian tested it out there last weekend, didn't you, Christian, where you rubbed chocolate, you got chocolate into your mother's seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, okay.
It's just making sure it worked.
Yeah.
So the other thing then is, we were away during a storm, and there is a video on it. We were away during storm, not Charlie, was it? Whatever it was, right? And the wind, so the door's a huge door, obviously. It acts like a sail, and the wind caught the door and basically pulled it out of my hand. So I was opening the door, the wind caught it, pulled the door, and what we had to do then, it was misaligned. So when we closed the door, you could hear it basically, I think there's somewhere along here where it was, I can't think where, but it was rubbing. So basically what it was doing was rubbing when it was closed, and we went
like an arthritic knee.
Yeah, and we couldn't bring it back to VW. They said it wasn't really something they did, but we brought it back to somewhere, and they adjusted those bits and pieces in there, and they put the door back. Well, after a couple of attempts, they fixed the door that way. But generally speaking, the dash area has been fine. Again, the design flaws is getting to the fuses. It's very awkward, but overall, I'd say there's no real issues. We're slowly but surely starting to clutter up the interior. I'll just shut this. So just on the rear wheels, they're still on the first set of tyres, and actually I said 40,000, it wasn't, it's 30,000, wasn't it? It's about 35,000, because I think we're only probably at about coming up in 40,000. So we're still on the original set of tyres, and that's fine. The door itself, the mechanism of the door, I have noticed sometimes it doesn't quite close properly, and so it's not the electronic door. Sometimes it doesn't close properly, and sometimes it sort of doesn't open properly. I don't know why. Maybe something's in the mechanism, but it's just a bit of an odd thing. The awning, which I think I forgot the last time, fantastic piece of kit. I would definitely recommend that you get the awning, and you know, just that's basically it. I think anyone who, if you're wondering, I think they come as standard now on the vans, but generally speaking, the van, the awning is an excellent piece of kit. We have the bike rack, and we do use it for bikes seldomly. We're not really a cycling family, but it's handy to have. And I do have this large bag that I tend to throw onto it, so we're carrying extra bits and pieces. But we've spent a lot of time now decluttering the van. The brake lights, again, still working. First set of brake lights, no problems whatsoever. That's the little camera there. That's the little camera that I have. So basically, I have the cable running up here and then down into the van and then up to the front, and it works fine. So it's actually the second, I'm on the second one of these cameras. The first one failed after, I'd say, the guts of 2 years, it died on me. And I used to have that one here, mounted here, but this one I mounted up higher so that I could have some kind of a better visibility. Water system. Are the electrics, plugging this in, no problem. The only thing you have to make sure is that this is closed. If you leave it anyway kind of loose and you're driving, it flaps a lot, and the fear is that obviously it'll break, so you need to give it a bit of a bang. This is fine. Bit of a palaver around opening this and closing this and getting water into it and so on like as well. I don't like the idea that it's exposed in this regard, because you can see with the Mercedes they have a similar cover as this across this, and I just think hygienically it's a better idea. But generally speaking, it's fine. We got the side bars. VW fitted them for us when we bought the van, and they have done the job in that I have dinged off a few rocks from time to time, and it has somewhat protected the van and indicated to me that I'm probably close to rocks. The only thing is they are starting to corrode. They're made of steel, and the steel doesn't seem to be protected in any kind of way, in that once the paint, especially here with stone chips and so on, kind of the corrosion, the salt. So what I've had to do is from time to time is kind of cover it with a paint equivalent to Hammerite. This is a T6, but you may have noticed that we have the 6.1 pop top canvas in that, like Christian is up there now modelling it wide open. So one of the issues we had with the van, and it's on this side, was that I noticed one day lying in bed up there that there was light here. There's a lot of light coming through, and what actually, when I got out, that the black piece here had actually come away from the upper part of the roof. When I lowered the roof halfway, I basically popped it back in, but every time you open the roof, it pulled away. It pulled away. It didn't get any worse, but it didn't get any better, obviously. So Vanessa, as part on our crusade to get the van fixed up, they looked at it, and what they tried to do is VW tried to repair it, but in the end they couldn't. And what they had to do is they had to replace the canvas completely, and so they've obviously fixed that. And the benefit is for us is we now have the new canvas with the fully open front in it, which I do think is an excellent idea. I think it's very good. The canvas itself is very thin. It lets it, so you can see it there where Christian is now. It lets a lot of light in, so you can imagine that first thing in the morning. So we use the purser screen. You really do need that. When we were away and it was hot, apparently we could use it to keep the top cool if you wanted. But what I'd say is that you will need some kind of either one of the inner screens or an outer screen, but you'll definitely need something, because if you go camping in the winter, which it's winter in Ireland 10 months of the year, if you go anywhere,
it's great protection from it.
Yeah, well, no, but that's too that's not great. And then I think then with winds and everything like that as well. But it's great to have the new thing, but that was very disappointing to have that as an issue. But other than that, I think then the mechanism is fine. The mechanism, so far, no issues. You do have to be careful of these things. The scissors mechanism here, a few times we have actually come to the point that if I'd lowered the roof fully, it would have cut a hole in it. The roof does. So you have to be super careful. Now, people do say about getting a bungee cord, and it's on my to-do list. And I think we can only get them in the UK, so I'd have to basically send away to somewhere in the UK. It's on the to-do list, but I'm super vigilant to do this. When we did get the new roof, it didn't quite fold in, so I had to make sure. You have to be super careful because it wasn't creased, and this part here, when I put the roof down, this part here, the bottom part, not the rolled up piece, was bulging out between the roof, so you have to be careful. So anything on that, Fee?
No.
So fair ball to you. You went over.
Oh, they got a list off me, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Look at the lanes.
I went over with a list of 13 issues that we had, and to date I think they've pretty much fixed every one of them now at this point.
They have, yeah. And that was outside warranty. We were gone.
That was just after the warranty, so that was probably March or so. Was it this year or no? No, it would have been last year. I did it.
No.
It was 2020, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, 2020.
Was it? The thing I'd say about it is that I think they are hoverflies, buddy. I think you're right. I think the thing is I think the thing about it is that they did them, but the roof thing was a recognised issue.
Yeah.
That they knew that some of the early T6s, which ours would be, that they'd made the roofs a little bit too tight.
Too tight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But yeah, no, but it is great to have the new. That's the first time we've opened it. Obviously, Christian is loving it, and it's very good. The only thing I'd say is that during the summer, if you went dead somewhere, you couldn't have it open at night. You'd be eaten alive with bugs. So having the purser screen up is not going to be. It's not going to quite work.
It's great on like, for the likes of, as you were saying there, like a day trip or something like that,
Yeah.
and then keeping it open, and it adds that extra bit of airflow through the van if you are in it. Because I mean, if you were sitting down, here's someone pulling in. If you were sitting down, just relaxing, it adds that little bit of airflow. You know?
Yeah, yeah. So
You could have the downstairs bed out during the day,
Yeah,
or you might be just sitting there relaxing.
yeah, yeah.
And you
So
have that extra bit of airflow.
yeah. So I think it's a good idea. So what? So do you want to do the? Do you want to do? Someone's obviously pulling in. I'd say they're turning, are they? Do you want to do? Do you want to do then the interior? Because generally speaking, I think like, we've covered the lights, the fog lights, the mechanics of the engine, the awning, all those things are fine. There's no real issues with it. And I think the thing then was, if Vanessa hops in, we can do the interior.
I have something to say on the purser screen.
Where are you? Where are you then?
There's one.
Wait, because I have this separate outside.
There's one main bad thing I'd say about the purser screen, even though
It's
it's really good.
pusser.
You can't see out the window.
You can't see out the window.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Because
that's
when you open it up, you can just see the inside of the purser screen.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, that's the point we're making. That when you have you need the purser screen because basically the canvas is just so light. But obviously the downside is of having it on the
It does
exterior.
block out the view.
Yeah, is that you can't. Whereas if you had an interior one, you could take it down, and it would do the business. Okay.
It's great being able to just let your tummy hang out.
Vanessa's pregnant. She hasn't been eating all the pies. She's just basically knocked up. It's a COVID baby. We're mortified, but anyway.
For me, personally, I would rather one of the ones that open out, just so that you can stack it better and look into it. Just as a practicality, I feel that would make more
That's
sense.
the flaw with it. But as
Yeah.
as someone, because we've no choice, obviously we're stuck with the fridge.
It works. So what we did was, I have to unpack it now first by now.
So it does, generally speaking, it does work.
It does.
It does the bit. We need to turn it down. The only thing is, that reminds me, you have it set to maximum. It can
freeze at the bottom. Now that could be purpose. I'm not too sure. So we put boxes into
I
it.
just make a point. We took the cage out
We took the cage out. Yeah.
because the cage was a problem.
Yeah, it was the cage was getting in the
Wasn't
way,
practical, yeah.
and we couldn't we used to have to take the cage out every time we were going to use it anyway.
Yeah.
So we put boxes in it, and we store everything in boxes, and it does the job. You know.
You get red floor?
You are?
Did you get red floor?
Yeah. We had red floor in the house.
But generally, and now the issue we did have an issue in that. Where's my finger?
Oh,
that part.
This part here, it fell off.
It
came
came away, and that had to go back and be fixed
Yes,
as well.
that has to be done.
But I think subsequent design, I think the 6.1 has different hinges.
Yeah.
They're better.
It would make sense for that hinge to be actually on this side that you can get to it.
Yeah.
But
It's
it is what it is.
It's a VW design.
Yeah. The wardrobe we do use when we're going away, again, we put little boxes full of stuff into it because it just makes more sense to do it that way. We store the sleeping bags in it though. And
It's not really a practical space though, is it?
It's not, no.
Like it's meant for hanging shirts and things like
It's
that.
awkward to get into it, but you wouldn't, like the likes of your shirts wouldn't fit into it because
No.
it's too shallow.
No.
You know, so you could hang something in it, but you'd only be hanging something in it if you were only going for a short journey and it wasn't something that was going to crease very quickly.
And I think I'd say, thinking about it as well, the practicality of the van is that we have something's biting me. We have we have totally now learned to, like, if we could go away with one t-shirt, one set of jocks and socks, and that would do you. That would be what I'd recommend. Go minimalistic in that those wardrobes. That's why we use it for storing sleeping bags, which are essential, by the way. You would need sleeping bags, not duvets. That's something we've learned through trial and error. But I think the thing is, minimalism is the key to make this van work. If you go away for 2 weeks and you're staying in places like that, I would say go minimalistic.
And use laundrettes if you can.
Yeah, bring as little as possible as you can
Yeah.
in the van, and then plan it that way. Okay.
So yeah, the cooker you have to push the seat forward, And if you're going to use the sink, you absolutely have to have that seat well and truly pushed forward, because otherwise the back of it gets completely destroyed.
Yeah.
It's great. I can't complain about the cooker. It would be great if we had the split top, but look, we don't. But we have put a chopping board across the top of it there, and it does the same job. You do have to make sure that if you have this ring on, that you take this out and move it, because otherwise it's going to melt on you.
Now, the sink, I came out one morning and the sink, I could hear something rattling around in the back, and that was basically last winter. And I opened it up, and the sink, the tap piece was basically had come away, and it was in the sink. So I think what happened there is that through expansion and contraction over a few years, it had worked itself loose. So the trick with this is, what you do is you bring it into the house, or bring out a cup of scalding hot water, dip the end of it into the scalding hot water, leave it in it for about a minute. It will expand, and then basically what you do then is you just basically push it back on. There's no other way. I couldn't get it on otherwise, and I didn't want to bring it over to VW, because what they'll do is they'll have a look at it and tell me they'll have to fix it and then charge me €100, and it popped back on. Now, saying that, we had to replace the water pump. It stopped delivering water one day because it stopped delivering water, and I was planning to fix the pump myself, because all it is a matter of opening the top of the access cover to where the water tank is, taking that off, and replacing the pump, which I thought would be very straightforward to do. But it's next to impossible, and it's not specialist, but it is enough that I'd say someone skilled in what they're doing could fix it, but there's no way I could, and it had to go back, and it was a huge job in that they replaced. I think the pump was 300. No, the pump was 100. The pump was €100, was it?
No, the pump was €23.
20. I always mix this up. €23.
They charged us 280 for the labour.
Yeah, so say call it €300 to get it fixed, and it has had a very easy life, because when we first got the van, we didn't really use the sink. We didn't use it at all. So I'd say for the first couple of years. So for it to fail, now I'd say we probably could have. It was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, in that I paid that, and then I think when something else went wrong, Vanessa lost the plot and said. So I'd say if it had been one of the faults, they probably would have fixed it as part of it. Yeah. VW probably would have covered that, but I think the thing is, it was sort of, at that stage we were out of warranty, and I was kind of bringing it over. I didn't think it would be that expensive,
and it was every time we went back over, there was something else wrong with it.
You'll have to sit forward, can't you? You're just a bit dark.
Every time we went back over, there seemed to be something else wrong with it. So what happened was, I saw the invoice, and I saw the fact that the price of the pump was only €23.
Yeah.
And then we were charged €280 for labour.
Yeah.
And I just lost my reason.
Yeah, and it's fair enough, because you see, the thing about it is that you pay so much money for the van, but then they kind of have you in that when so many things go wrong with the van, that when you go back, and the labour is astronomical. The parts in themselves are mass produced, and obviously this is the problem. I suspect that because the parts are mass produced, they're not great quality, and they break, and then they go back and they go, yeah, we'll replace this for you. It's only a £5, but it's going to cost us. It's going to take us 3 hours to do it, and it's €100 an hour. It's not cheap. So
we get on with it.
But what that leads us to then is, remind me to talk about the state of the back of the thing. Anyway,
presses down. You open them out, and like if you're sitting here, right? I'm not tall. I'm 5'4". I'm tiny, but it's still awkward to lean and trying to. If you're on your knees doing it, it's still awkward. So I can imagine if there was a man in the van and he's trying to find something that's in it. Now we have it now, we've things boxed off and we know exactly where everything is.
Or a very tall woman, you could say.
Or a very tall woman.
Very tall person.
A tall person, yeah. Right, so that's it is what it is. That's the way they are. If something slips in here, everything has to get moved, otherwise the press is done.
Yeah, and what I'd say is, although we do have a system of those little plastic boxes, nothing ever quite works, does it?
No.
There's no real magic. The only thing I'd say is bring nothing away with you.
Then you're going to hear the rattles.
Yeah, so it's not great.
Just the other thing I suppose I was going to say was, when you have this out and open, and then you discover, I forgot a knife.
Yeah.
Your knife is down here, so you have to get down and get in there and try and get yourself like obviously on my state at the moment, I can't get underneath the table. You have to try and get yourself down and figure out where the knives are. So it can be a bit, it's awkward.
Yeah, no, what I would say is, look, it's in that, to be fair to them, it's a very small space, but I think the thing is, the design is, it is a compromise, it is what it is,
Yeah.
but it could be better thought out, I think, by them. And the other thing is, you have to make sure that table, the table is in, because if you don't put it in properly, locked into position, it rattles. And
Well, what I would
drives
say
me
is
mad.
probably it'd make more sense if they put that drawer on this side,
Yeah,
because the cooker rings are on this side.
yeah,
So chances are you're going to be sitting here cooking,
yeah.
not on that side.
Yeah, there's probably a whole piece around. I think the thing is, if the sink was down that end and the fridge was up this end, and then they made the fridge front opening and then the cooker in the middle, there's probably something that they need to. But obviously, again,
They don't want to mess with it either, and I understand that. So
there's
then
probably
the
issues.
drawer underneath, we store kind of bits and bobs in it, and bits of food and snacks and stuff like that, you know. So it's great, but again, if you've forgotten to get anything out of it, but that's obviously down to making sure you're prepared for it. But now, in the early days, I'd be going every 2 minutes trying to get something out of it.
Yeah.
But now I kind of go, right, what do I need for cooking?
Yeah.
What do I need? What are we having? Grand, bang, 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 bang. Make sure everything is out of it.
And again, I think things. See, the thing about it is, it's now obviously the design in such a way is that it's up to you what you put in it. But I think these partitioning it is the key. So
Yeah.
things like we use it. I've seen other people use things like put blankets in it and all sorts of stuff. But we use it for food, and I think this kind of partitioning system is the way to go.
Yeah.
It just helps, because otherwise you're constantly having to root around in it.
Yeah,
But, well,
because we have to store our food in, I suppose, our dry food in it, because
Yeah.
otherwise we kind of go, and that's only for a day.
Yeah.
It's only going on a day trip.
Yeah.
But
But
otherwise,
you wouldn't keep. See, the thing is, we kept things in here, food. But again, as part, it's so awkward, isn't it? It's such an
well,
awkward
what was
space.
happening as well was, if you remember, we were putting stuff into it. So we say the likes of the Nutella for Christian's
Yeah.
breakfast, or a little quick sandwich or something like that. But it was actually, because the van gets so cold at night, it was actually freezing the Nutella.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So things were coming out, and like the likes of the Nutella is the one thing that sticks into my mind. It was hard, and then the bread, I remember putting bread in it, and the bread was coming out, and it was that kind of, it was staling too quick.
Yeah, because of the cold.
'Cause of the
Yeah, because
cold.
cold makes bread
Yeah,
stale.
so we actually I found that this was actually better,
The
putting it in under here.
and the other thing I'd say is, when the bed is down, access to it is very difficult as well. But
Oh,
again,
yeah,
it's part of the compromise design. We're not, again, for the fanboys out there, like they'd say, we'll get a bigger van, you know, and we kind of go, we accept that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that part of the compromise for design is
It's just one of those things that's just impractical about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I wouldn't buy it because of this. It's
Yeah.
just something to be aware of, that when you're setting it out.
yeah.
that-
Again, less is more
Yeah.
with the van. You know, bring,
Absolutely, and those boxes have been, to section things off, have been a great idea.
yeah. And that suits us. While I'm at it, the tinted glass, so you can see the tinted glass there, absolutely essential. And the insulation in the glass is double glazed and tinted, absolutely essential. Yeah, so it keeps you warm at night.
Yeah.
So I would completely recommend that, just a sort of side note. Anything else then, V?
The chairs and that, like when we turn the chairs and everything around, the two cab chairs,
Oh yeah.
it's,
Well, that,
it's grand. Do you know what I mean? And it's comfortable. It's more comfortable, and it does give you that extra bit of space. Obviously, you can't if you're going up on chocks. You can't
yeah.
turn the driver's chair, or you could, but you're going to roll back down the chocks. So
look, the issue with that is that, okay. What Vanessa is getting at, the issue with that is that it still has, so modern cars modern VWs are going with an electronic automatic handbrake, but this still has a manual handbrake. So what typically happens to us is, we'll get the van leveled, we park, get it leveled on the chocks, and then that's it. You park up and you're done. And then later in the evening, it's like, I'll rotate the seat. Then when you release so to rotate that seat there, you have to let the handbrake down, right? So that's the thing. So when you let the handbrake down to rotate the seat, the van because this is an automatic, it could be different in a manual maybe, I'm not sure, but the van has a tendency to roll back and settle slightly, which knocks you off your level. And so you're caught in this kind of catch-22 situation of that you need to anticipate the leveling of the van. And so what do? Do you get it level and then turn the seats, or do you kind of like park up and then turn the seats, and then, so you know, you can't, it's next to impossible. You get caught in this kind of catch-22 situation, whereas you need to just kind of factor it in. But you can, again, it's a minor complaint, but I think, again, I don't know why it's not an automatic or I don't know why it's not an automatic handbrake. It'd be just so much more useful. And I think the thing is, I have a new Passat that has an automatic handbrake, and it has push button start, and I'm so used to it. I think the thing is, they're nice things that they should introduce in the new vans.
They were doing those automatic handbrakes at the time, because you had a very old Passat at one stage.
Yeah.
And I had it like an 06.
But there's probably some reason. There's probably some reason why they don't do it. Anyway,
I think that's it internally.
So just to cover off on the electrics, so the plugs and all that kind of, where's my finger? So, you know, all the sockets and bits and pieces here as well. So again, that's fine. We haven't had any issues with it. The only thing I have noticed with it is, so it works fine. So again, there's the big plug that when you are plugged in on power, when you're plugged in on power, you have a proper socket there. So that's very useful, and that works. So basically, you get to a campsite, you plug in on power, and you can plug in things like laptops, and when you're trying to charge your phones or things like that. We can use the toaster and so on. There's certain, you can use, I can't quite think of what the max voltage is or amps is, but it's enough to do it. Obviously, you couldn't put something in very heavy drain. It will trip the van's electrics, and that's fine. And then they have a kind of couple of, they have a cigarette socket over there as well that we use. What we do is we put a couple of adapters on it. The only issue with it is we have the Continental socket, and I think that's an oversight. I think that's a mistake. I think it came with the Continental, because I think subsequently I've seen vans with the UK style, the 3-pin, UK and Ireland, 3-pin style plug. And so we have to use an adapter all the time. But other than that, I think it's fine. And I just assumed it was the way the van was designed, because again, the door being on the wrong side for the UK and Ireland, I just assumed it was. But then I think years later, when I saw someone having a proper socket, I was like, oh, maybe that's a mistake. So that's just something to check.
I was just going to say as well, the gear stick.
Oh yeah. This is your pet peeve.
This is my absolute pet peeve, and it's one of the reasons why I actually don't like driving the van.
So just show.
Christian, just throw your feet up there.
I'll just show. This is what Vanessa's talking about. This piece here, where's my finger? This piece, the indicator for what gear you're in. So, go on. What's your point for you about it?
So, it's a right-hand drive van. So you're sitting. That's obviously the Continental
gear stick.
So if you're a left-hand drive, you can see everything that you're doing. This is a right-hand drive van, so rather than them just shift the gear stick over slightly and put the indicators on the right, they just left them on the left, which, yeah, you can look and you can see it on the dashboard, and I appreciate that, I get that, but if that's not something that you do, if when you're changing the gears, it can be quite difficult to see which one it is that you're in.
Yeah. No.
When you're putting it into drive or into reverse, to make sure, if you're not very familiar with it.
What I'd say, so the thing is, when you change gear, you get the indicator here. It tells you what you're in, and I've learned to use that over time. But I do, and also I think here with the indicator is that what I know instinctively now, because I've changed, because you do it so often, I know where neutral and drive is and stuff like that as well. But Vanessa's point is really, this is blocked. You can't really see it from the driving angle. This should be on this side. And again, it's just sort of an attention to detail thing, in that it's probably not ideal, and Vanessa has flagged it with them. Now, what I would say is, on the DSG gearbox, while I'm at it, that hasn't caused any problems so far. The only thing I would say is that if the van does roll, sometimes the shifter can be a little bit hard to move. So that way, if the van, say for example, we have parked on chocks and it rolls backwards ever so slightly, what tends to happen is you tend to have to pull this a little bit harder than you would normally, and I'm always a little bit concerned that something's going to go wrong with the gearbox. But other than that, it's been fine. The automatic gearbox is it's very good, and I'd be lost without it. And what I'd say then, the adaptive cruise control is fantastic as well for long journeys. Every van has to have a Charlie. We follow Charlie and me, so we follow Aaron's. It's focusing on you, but we follow Aaron's channel. So every van should have a Charlie and me sticker. We do, so we recommend that you follow Aaron's channel. He's very good. Aaron, the wife's G, isn't it?
Deirdre, yeah.
Deirdre, and I'm supposed to call her D.
Oh, sorry,
And the
yeah.
dog's
Charlie.
actually called Charlie, right? So he does that stuff. And his buddy Chris as well, with their podcast.
Camping crew, isn't it? It is the camping crew, yeah.
Here's the camping crew, yeah, the camping crew. So this is just looking into the boot to kind of cover off various aspects of it, right? So we got the hose, not the hose, we got the shower, and I have used it. I used to do a lot more running than I do these days, and I did use the shower. It was handy, but it is handy for like if we're on the beach, washing off boots and all that kind of stuff. So you just connect a little hose piece in here. It's just a shower head, and it is handy. It's an optional extra, and it just draws water from the cold water tank, which is fine. But obviously the water is cold all the time, and that's not ideal. Again, the lockers, you know, they're just cramped and stuff, and I think they've changed this into 6.1. I think they've changed this whole mechanism. It's not great. I think doors would be better, but I think the whole idea is that you can slide these in, so if this is full, you know, you have better access. But I have to say it's not great. And their complaint with VW was so in here, down here, there is access to the water tank. And when we got the van back, we have a system. Now, it doesn't look like I do have some kind of system in here, but they basically ransacked the back of the van. So you see we have some kind of system here in place when we go away. And when we got it back, the back of the van had been ransacked. And that's another thing that kind of kicked Vanessa off, triggered her rage.
They chipped the mirror as well.
They did, yeah. They just forced everything back in. And you can see here, I told them not that they were going to replace this, but I told them not to bother. But just things like that. That wasn't a great attention to detail, and to get the van back from them after paying. Well, we didn't pay that time, but they would have charged otherwise was a problem. Down here, where the in here in the bottom is where the gas is stored, and that works fine. The mechanism for the gas is fine, but obviously the only thing I would say is opening and closing it so you're not supposed to drive around with the gas on, and then you have to get out. And of course, we could have this empty access to the gas, but I just think.
That's our ponchos and that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a better system. I'm always conscious of what I put in here because I know I have to have access to the bottom. This is the seat. So the folding mechanism for the bed, when it is in the bed position, is fine. It can get, it's a little tricky, but I think once you get used to it, isn't it, Faye?
Yeah.
Once you get used to it, it's fine, but it works fine.
You just have to remember to put the headrests down.
Yeah.
That's you get most of the way there and you go, oh, the headrests.
Yeah.
You just have to remember to put them down.
So experience is the thing, and I think again in the new van they have this piece that this folds up and creates a backrest and stuff like that as well, which is a nice touch.
And I think
Mr. Ford,
Mr. Ford has actually made one of them for his own one.
Yeah.
And put it in. It's fantastic.
Mr. Ford's a long time viewer of the channel. Huge friend of ours, and he made his own. So we told him to sell them, mass market them. Again, we kind of did. The
boxes.
Yeah.
So we use them now instead of suitcases.
Yeah.
And they actually worked out well for us, didn't they?
Yeah.
So you just literally pull your own box out. Actually, have we not got three? Or I put Christian stuff into the wardrobe, wasn't it? That's the way we did it. So you just literally pull your box out.
That's what she said.
And it works a treat.
Yeah, no, so just to elaborate on that. So what we do is we basically bring enough clothes with us if we're going away to fill these each. Now that there's a big black bag in there. That just lives in the back of the van. But when we're doing anything, we tend to take it out. And Vanessa has a little caddy there from when we used to bring our big awning tent. And actually, I must remind me to talk about that dado rail thing or whatever it is. So generally, this is what we tend to bring clothing wise. We bring the bare minimum, but it's practical because what we've learned is you can go in places and just get them washed. And then there would be, there's those kind of roadside laundrettes and stuff like that. It's just so much more practical than bringing tons and tons and tons of clothes with us and stuff like that as well. So then the porta potty, an absolute must. And I have a video, it's one of the most watched videos on my channel about that porta potty. But I think the thing is, we used to keep it in the front, up under the sink. And this is its new home now. We didn't use it for the longest time, and that was more to do with me not wanting to clean it. I don't think I shut that properly. I haven't shut that properly. I just need to take that back out and close it. But absolutely, the porta potty cube 335 fits in the van perfectly. Very easy to maintain and clean, and very handy to use, especially for Vanessa. She tends to use it. It's nice because most places, well, COVID, most toilets are locked, but also just for ladies with discretion. But I would absolutely, and Vanessa, our Christian, likes to use it as well because he can be a bit shy about peeing all over the place on the outside, but it never seems to bother me. So the boot is fine, plenty of space, no real issues there. So that's what I was going to say. The awning, how does that work again, B?
Gator rail.
This thing, we take this out, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so we used to have a tent, so we had a big base. Again, if you go through the channel and you look up, what was it called? The Keeler Tree tent.
Keeler Tree, yeah.
So what we had was, we had this massive tent that basically attached onto the front, and we don't really use it anymore. We bought it. I'll hang on to it. We'll never sell it because it's useful to have.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, we don't tend to bring that with us anymore.
I think if we're going on like a long weekend away, say if we were going from Friday to Monday or something like that, and we had intended on staying in one spot,
Yeah.
it could probably come in handy.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, we used it down in Caherdaniel and that, and it was great. But for us, for the type of camping that we're doing, we tend to do a lot more wild camping,
Yeah.
stealth camping.
Yeah.
It's definitely, obviously, for doing that type of camping, you can't use it. So
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. So as part of our minimalism these days, we wouldn't bring that. But I wouldn't use it just for a few days. I think I'd have to be gone somewhere for a couple of weeks.
Probably, yeah.
The last time we used it was when we went to Italy, and I think that would be if we were camping. So say we went to someone's house and you were staying with them for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, you'd want that extra space.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only time I'd probably really use it now these days. But the Keeler Tree tent is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
and what
it's
it does is it mounts to Vanessa Viewpoint. I was doing it anyway, but what you do is you attach it to the awning, and it just basically creates all this extra
just
space.
when this pulls back,
Yeah,
and then it's just inside there, and
yeah,
you have a gator rail, it's called, and you just literally put it on, and it attaches to the awning,
yeah,
and then the tent attaches to it.
yeah.
And if you're driving away, you can just pull it out, and you leave the tent standing up, and you drive away.
Yeah, it's very handy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's very good, and I think it gives you a ton of extra space. But the problem with it is you put it up, the weather's beautiful. Of course, the minute you got to take it down and pack it away, it is lashing.
And that's what tended to happen to us, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I got sick of taking it down in the rain. And the other thing as well is it takes up a huge amount of space. So as part of our kind of minimalism when it comes to camping, the Keeler Tree tent.
It used to take up all of this space.
Yeah, it was huge.
On the whole way back.
It would take up a lot of space,
Yeah.
and it's part of our minimalism, and we do. So I think the thing I'd say is that we've gone down the road of, we do a lot more now as we've gotten kind of more comfortable and braver. We do a lot more wild camping, which suits us. So when you're wild camping, minimalism. We do a lot of short stays, but the plan is, COVID interrupted that. The plan would be to go to the UK for a couple of weeks, or go onto the continent or something like that for a couple of weeks and drive around wild camping and stay in the odd campsite where we wanted to, or stay in a hotel from time to time and mix it up a little bit. And I think that's the plan. 2 weeks of camping somewhere is just not our thing, because you're kind of anchored to the one base, whereas I think what we like to do is travel and see a lot of places, and then that way then if we park up and wild camp, that's more our thing. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but that is definitely our cup of tea. That's the thing. Anything else, Vanessa?
Yeah, what I would say about the van is something
Right now. Yeah.
What I would say about the van is something that we, I suppose what we started off on the whole journey was, we do a lot of day trips. And we used to go off in the car and stuff like that, and then we got the van, and like making food and staying out all day, and you just have that flexibility to just go off and explore and do whatever you want, and not kind of be tied to getting back to a shop so that you can buy food, or is there a restaurant nearby, the kids are hungry, or anything like that. So it comes into its own for us. Definitely it comes into its own for day tripping.
Well, I'd say
and we use it a lot for day tripping.
We were complete noobs. We'd never camped before when we got the van, right? So it was typical me jumping in with both feet right into the deep end. But what I would say is that we'd gone from hotels to basically, instead of having a hotel room, we substituted a van for that. Then we realised that we were missing a lot of the mod cons. And then we built up a huge amount of stuff that we bring around with us But then we realised we actually liked the driving around and the camping and the wild camping, and then the hotel has its place for a separate holiday. And I think so. The thing is to get some kind of mix of the both, and that sort of suits us as well.
And over time, using the porta potty and so using the porta potty and then kind of using the sink and stuff like that, and then getting used to it, we decided that we didn't really need too many campsites. That we were restricted in a campsite as well. That it was kind of, we were using the campsite so that we could do the washing and have showers and use toilets and stuff like that. So yeah, you still have to have like your personal hygiene. You have your wet wipes and stuff like that with you. But the porta potty has definitely given us that level of freedom that we don't need to go to campsites because we need to have a bathroom.
Yeah.
And then the using the sink and bits and pieces like that, and just kind of lightening up on what it is that we're eating as well. Like, because I think at one stage I was trying to cook proper meals.
Yeah, spuds.
I did actually make potatoes one day. But you live and learn.
You do, yeah.
You know.
And I'm trying to encourage Vanessa to go down the road of
Quiches,
pre-made salads and all that kind of stuff. So look, I think the thing is, I'm going to start wrapping it up, but that's just basically the wire that comes down from the camera, and I have this here just to sort of protect it, because there's a lot of it's just basically a bit of tape and just something to protect the wire as it goes in there, because you get something to go in and maybe cut through the wire. But it lives here, and this seems fine. Maybe that's what broke the last one, I'm not sure.
Does Christian have anything to add?
Christian, anything from you?
Perspective.
Huh?
No.
No, okay. So
I think you've covered everything. Oh wait, I have something. The beds are extraordinarily comfortable.
oh yeah, I suppose that's a fair point actually. Well, we never did the ups. Yeah, so I forgot about that. I always forget about something. The beds are comfortable. Not perfectly comfortable.
I really like them.
And they have changed the design of the new one, and I don't know if it's more comfortable. Apparently it is. But I think after, like anything, when you go to a hotel, you take a day or two to adjust to the new bed. But it never bothers me other than that. I think the downstairs bed is more comfortable, and the upstairs bed is not as comfortable. I tend to like to have something to lie on, other than the wife. And so that's that. But I always forget, there's probably things I have forgotten. So again, to recap again, for the fanboys, you can see it is brilliant to have it. We do love it. We use it a lot. You only have to look at the amount of videos that we've done, and we bring the van everywhere with us, obviously. And what I'd say, the downsides are all the compromises, but they're part of the van. And I think people who say it's us, that we're being too demanding and we should change vans, are not being honest. I think the thing is, anyone who gets the van, especially if it's your first camper van, you'll come in thinking it's the business, because that's how it's sold. It's sold as being the perfect solution, and it's not. But I think if you're prepared to be flexible and adjust yourself over time to the van, you'll get to, you'll get a good system going. And obviously the other huge downside is the amount of faults we've had with the van, the amount of issues we've had with the van. So now when I'm driving around, always at the back of my mind, being the kind of person I am, I'm always a little bit concerned that something serious is going to go wrong with the van, and I'm going to go broke trying to get it fixed, because we've just had so many faults and so many issues. So VW really do need to look at the quality aspect of this van, in that there's certain things, not just me, I have seen I've seen other people kind of make, like, the little rubber grommets in the back that stop the bed rubbing off the back. Like, I remember I found them in the boot going, what are these? And at the amount of videos and amount of pictures and questions I've seen about those rubber grommets. So VW definitely know that there's some kind of design flaw with that. But time and time again, obviously they haven't fixed it, and then trying to get those little suckers back into place is an absolute nightmare. So again, I'm kind of moaning about the van. I don't mean to, but I just think the thing is that they need to address the quality issues. And I think if you know about the quality issues and things start to go wrong, then get onto them as quickly as possible and get them seen to. And probably if you buy a van that's 3 or 4 or 5 years old, I think most of the issues may have worked out of the system at this stage, but hopefully that's what it is. And I'm looking at the van here, and it is full of those little hobbits. Millions of them. Drive me mad. So that's it. I'm going to sign off. Thanks a million for watching. And get a van. Where are you, V? Get a van. We'd say get one.
Dad,
And it's what?
I I don't think you're convincing them because 90% of this video has been complaints.
Well, that's what it is. You see, there's no point in that. It'd be a very short video if I just said it's great. But it's not. It's not. But it is. Look, I think we love it, but it's full of issues.
It's an all review.
It is, and I don't need to justify myself. I think the thing is, if you're a big boy and you accept that there are issues, this is just their opinion, right? We're going.
Bye bye.